Pokemon has been around since the prehistoric times when dinosaurs roamed the earth, and every time a new game is released, the residents of the era hope for one single thing: multiple save files. So let's look into the history of each Pokemon generation and see what went wrong. Pokemon Red and Blue were the first Pokemon games released. For their time, they were a fantastic game. As they went on, they aged fairly well, still being playable, but with lots of technical setbacks and game-breaking bugs. But we don't care about that today. We care about the save files. As the first Pokemon games, they had no second or third save files, unlike Super Metroid, a game that released almost 2 years prior. You see, Super Metroid had 3 save files. That being said, Pokemon was on a handheld console while Super Metroid was on a home console, so it makes sense why Pokemon's technology was a little outdated for its time. Either way, we only had access to one save file, meaning if you wanted to play through twice, you had to sacrifice your save, and this was something you just kinda had to deal with. Pokemon Gold and Silver were the sequel to Pokemon Red and Blue, and possibly the end to the series. Fortunately, the series was going to be continued because of the massive success of these games and Red and Blue, but the games had a lot more content than their predecessors, even including the previous region and a difficult battle with Red. Unfortunately, Gold and Silver were already pushing the limits of the Game Boy Color, and lots of Pokemon and architecture was scrapped due to the power of the system. This meant even if they wanted to allow multiple saves, they couldn't due to limitations of the tech. Let's fast forward a bit. After Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, we finally got something that pushes us in the right direction: Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. Some of you have probably already figured it out as soon as I said that. You see, with the release of the first Switch Pokemon games, you could use the multiple Switch profiles to have multiple saves on each game. It's still not perfect, but at least it's something. So yes, it's true that Pokemon does have a save file problem, but why does that matter? In recent years, Pokemon started to become a series where you can transfer Pokemon from other gens into the newer ones, so you always had the same Pokemon on your journey. But for me, and many others, this wasn't the case. Since I started with Pokemon X and Y, which is notorious for having no post-game, I had to restart it in order to enjoy it. So, after a day or two of thought, I did it. I said goodbye to my Pokemon and reset my save. All of those hours and connections I made with my team were down the drain. So I booted up my new file and played it until I beat it. This is what I did for entertainment. If you could have even one more save, then I would still have my original file and Pokemon. But no. The only way to play through twice without deleting your file was to buy the other version. So I kept resetting my file every time I beat the game, and I felt bad for asking the same game twice. So eventually, Omega Ruby released, and I got that game too, and wouldn't you know it, it only had one file. So I did the same thing, losing my first file and teams forever. Now you all know about what I call the Pokemon save file problem. This is a major issue that was ignored because lots of people who had platforms to express their thoughts were adults and could just buy both versions. Although the problem is kinda fixed, we still shouldn't ignore it. If the next Nintendo console doesn't have a loophole like the profiles, then tons of files will be lost to time, just like mine. I hope all of you watching this could avoid this issue as much as possible, and thank you for watching this far.